$6,000 for a shower curtain. Not a jet, not a yacht. A shower curtain bought with shareholders' money by the CEO of a $100 billion company. But that curtain wasn't the crime. It was just the receipt, the trail pointing to $600 million that simply vanished. And it all started with a kid from Newark who had absolutely nothing. Dennis Kozlowski was born in Newark, New Jersey in 1946. His father was a cop, his mother was a crossing guard. No trust fund, no connections, no Harvard MBA. He got an accounting degree from Seton Hall, a local school nobody writes books about, and in 1975 joined a mid-sized industrial company called Tyco International as a mid-level manager. Nobody expected much from him. By 1992, he was running the whole company, and what happened next made Wall Street fall completely in love with him. Tyco made everything: fire alarms, medical equipment, industrial parts. Boring. Profitable, but boring. Kozlowski's idea was brutally simple. Stop being one company, become every company. He turned Tyco into an acquisition machine, buying rivals, suppliers, competitors at a pace nobody had seen before. In 1997 alone, Tyco bought over 100 companies. In 8 years, Kozlowski closed over 1,000 deals, including ADT Security for $12.3 billion and AMP Incorporated for $11.3 billion. Revenue went from $3 billion in 1992 to $38 billion by 2001. The stock climbed from $2 to $60, a 30-fold return in less than a decade. Businessweek called him one of the top 25 managers in America. Analysts compared him to Jack Welch of General Electric. Institutional investors piled in. The story was irresistible. A working-class kid from New Jersey. No silver spoon, no elite pedigree. Just raw talent turning a boring industrial company into a global empire. What nobody asked, what nobody wanted to ask, was one very simple question. Where was all the cash actually going? In 1997, Tyco's board approved something called the Key Employee Loan Program. The idea was clean on paper. Senior executives could borrow money at low interest to buy company stock, aligning their incentives with shareholders. Standard practice. Nothing unusual. Kozlowski and his chief financial officer, Mark Schwartz, had a very different interpretation. Between 1997 and 2002, Kozlowski borrowed $270 million through that program. He was supposed to use it to cover taxes on stock grants. He used $29 million for that. The other $242 million went to personal expenses. But the loans were just the beginning. Kozlowski and Schwartz discovered a second trick. They simply forgave their own loans, without board authorization, without disclosure to shareholders, without paying income tax on what they collected. They falsified internal documents. They categorized personal expenses as business costs. They approved each other's transactions inside a financial structure so layered and opaque that even Tyco's auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers, never flagged it. So what did $600 million actually buy? A $19 million apartment on Park Avenue, purchased with a Tyco loan, quietly forgiven, never disclosed to shareholders, then $11 million more to decorate it. All billed to the company. That is where the shower curtain lived. $6,000 custom fabric, gold tassels. A $15,000 dog umbrella stand. A gold-plated wastebasket for $2,200. A traveling toiletry box for $17,000. $43 million in Renoirs and Monets, filed under office decor. And then, June 2000, the party, Kozlowski flew 75 guests first class to Sardinia, Italy for his wife's 40th birthday. Ancient Rome theme. Togas, an ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David with vodka flowing from its body. Jimmy Buffett performing live for $1 million. Total bill, $2 million. Half charged to Tyco, disguised in the books as a shareholder conference. This was not aggressive accounting. This was not a gray area. This was a CEO who had convinced himself that the company's money was his money, and a CFO who helped him build the paper walls around it. The first public sign came in January 2002. The Wall Street Journal reported that a Tyco board member named Frank Walsh had quietly collected a $20 million finder's fee on a company acquisition. without disclosing it to the other board members or shareholders. The stock fell from $60 to $40, then kept falling. The Securities and Exchange Commission opened a formal inquiry. Kozlowski stayed calm. He had survived scrutiny before. He was, after all, the guy who always delivered the numbers. But in May 2002, Manhattan prosecutors caught something smaller and far more damaging. Kozlowski had bought $13 million in fine art for his Park Avenue apartment. To dodge New York sales tax, he shipped the invoices to his New Hampshire address, then quietly moved the paintings to Manhattan. A $1 million tax scheme, trivial by his standards, catastrophic by timing. On June 3, 2002, a grand jury indicted him for tax fraud. He resigned the same day. And with that resignation came the question nobody had asked loudly enough before. If he was cheating the state out of $1 million on fine art purchases, what else had he been hiding inside a $100 billion company? The internal investigation that followed took months to untangle. In September 2002, prosecutors unsealed a 38-count criminal indictment against Kozlowski and Schwartz. Grand larceny, conspiracy, securities fraud. $600 million systematically stolen over 5 years. The first trial lasted 6 months. Prosecutors showed jurors the shower curtain. They played the Sardinia party video, the togas, the ice sculpture Jimmy Buffett performing on a private island while shareholders had no idea their equity was funding the show. 11 of 12 jurors voted guilty. 1 refused. A single 79-year-old juror held out alone, and the judge declared a mistrial. Kozlowski came within 1 vote of walking free. The retrial began in January 2005. The verdict arrived in June. Kozlowski, guilty on 22 of 23 counts. Schwartz, guilty on all 23. Both sentenced to 8 to 25 years in state prison, plus combined restitution and fines exceeding $200 million. Tyco shareholders had lost over $90 billion in value. 240,000 employees spent years in institutional uncertainty. The company was left carrying $28 billion in debt, the rotting legacy of a decade of looting dressed up as growth. Kozlowski served 6.5 years. He was paroled in 2012. He lives in New Hampshire today. So what should investors have seen before any of this? First, acquisition volume is not a strategy. It can be a disguise. Tyco bought over 1,000 companies in 8 years. Each deal reset the financial clock, buried weak organic results, and made the books nearly impossible to read from the outside. When a company can't tell you what it earns without counting last quarter's acquisition, that's your first red flag. Always separate organic revenue growth from deal-driven growth. They are not the same thing. Second, read the proxy statement. Before investing in any public company, pull the annual proxy filing. It's free on the Securities and Exchange Commission's website. It lists executive compensation, loan programs, related party transactions. Kozlowski's borrowing was technically referenced in internal forms. He just lied on them. But independent investors checking whether executive pay required board approval and whether executives were holding or quietly selling their stock would have found something worth questioning years earlier. Third, track insider transactions. Kozlowski and Schwartz sold over $100 million in Tyco stock while publicly claiming they never sold shares. In the United States, every insider sale must be filed within 2 days on a public form called Form 4, available free on the Securities and Exchange Commission's website. When a chief executive and chief financial officer are selling simultaneously and at scale, that is a data point, not a rumor, a filing. And it deserves your attention before the stock price delivers the news. Fourth, for founders, the way you treat company money is the culture you build. Kozlowski normalized entitlement at the top. Board members collected undisclosed fees. Auditors missed hundreds of millions. Finance executives engineered the cover-up. One person's unchecked ego didn't just steal money. It corrupted an entire institution. An independent board, a real audit committee, anonymous reporting channels. These aren't bureaucratic overhead. They are the immune system of any company. Build them before you think you need them. The Tyco scandal, alongside Enron, directly triggered the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, the most sweeping corporate governance reform in a generation. It banned executive personal loans from public companies. It criminalized the certification of false financial statements. It was written in the wreckage Kozlowski left behind. The $6,000 shower curtain now sits in the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners Museum, a permanent exhibit, not because it was expensive, but because it proved that greed doesn't always look like a villain. Sometimes it looks like the smartest guy in the room, the one everybody trusted, the one nobody questioned. The next fraud is already happening. Subscribe to Capital Sins so you don't miss the next collapse. And if you spotted the warning signs in this story before the crash, drop a like. That instinct is exactly what protects your money.